colleges. Hi everyone. Thank you for coming to this webinar. My name is Montaz. I'm the current president of the Cambridge University Arab Society, and I'm here today with thankfully to them, a group of students from the Middle East who are currently studying at Cambridge as well. Today we would like to help you to consider to apply to Cambridge for your postgraduate studies, and also introduce you to the scholarship opportunities that are available for you, and highlight a new scholarship called AlThuraya Cambridge Scholarship, which is newly launched for the applicants starting from this year, to help you apply to increase your chances of getting funding when you're applying to Cambridge. I'll give a brief overview of how this webinar will proceed over the approximately 1 hour. So I'll give an overview of the application process, an overview of the AlThuraya Cambridge scholarships, and then each of the students will speak for 5 minutes, introducing and giving you tips about how to apply to their programs and get accepted, and hopefully secure funding for it. So this will approximately take about half an hour, and then over the next first half hour, you guys will be able to ask questions, and we'll be able to hopefully provide answers for you. To start with, Cambridge sounds like it's an intimidating name, right? Who would get accepted in Cambridge? Probably I have to have like a, but from my personal experience, this is as long as you show that you have enough motivation and the ability to acquire new skills, then this is enough for you to get accepted in any place, and certainly to get accepted in Cambridge. I'm currently a PhD student, a second-year PhD student doing cognition and brain sciences. I have experience applying to a master program, but the general application process is very similar. Depending on where you're, which department you're applying, the general outline of the application is usually give some sort of a research proposal, a CV, and a couple of recommendation letters from people you've worked with who can abilities and your potential. Now about the funding, getting accepted in the department is stage 1. Stage 2 is securing funding. There are lots of students who get accepted, but they unfortunately are not able to secure any funding, especially students who are from a Middle East background, because our funding options are limited. But this year, there's one extra option, which is the AlThuraya Cambridge scholarships, launching an MENA program, Middle East and North Africa program, to fund students from the MENA countries who would like to study master programs in selected fields, specifically those related to sciences, medical sciences, genetics, physics, mathematics, and also law. The application process for this funding is centralized. So when you are applying for Cambridge, the application, you will see that there is a tick button to just say, I would like to be considered for the Cambridge Trust scholarships. And the Cambridge Trust is the main provider of financial assistance for the students applying to Cambridge. And the AlThuraya Cambridge Scholarship is through the Cambridge Trust. So you do not have to add an extra application. It's the same university application, and once you secure acceptance in your once the department accepts your application, you will automatically be considered for a number of scholarships, including the AlThuraya. Now we'll start with Yumna. So Yumna is currently a PhD student in the computer science lab. She did her master's in computer science a couple of years ago, and she successfully transferred to the PhD program. So she will give us a brief overview about the application process that she went through.
Yes, thank you, Marcus. Hi, everyone. So I'm Yumna, and I'm committed. I did my master's here in Cambridge in 2015. And at the beginning, I remember when I started applying, I thought that I don't stand a chance to be accepted in Cambridge. But I decided that I'll have to try and see how things go. So the application is quite straightforward. But the important part in it, as Mu'taz said, is that you have to show that you're motivated, that you're interested to do research, and that you have the mentality to do that. You don't have to come up with a great proposal or to propose something that would change the world. Show that you have the ability to do good research and to learn and to acquire new skills. And actually, one of the important things that helped me a lot is that I contacted one of the professors so I'm doing computer science, I forgot to mention that. I contacted one of the professors in the computer lab, and I was asking him questions, and he was very helpful, and I sent him my proposal, and he gave me feedback about that. It was quite helpful, so you can email anyone that you find could be helpful or could give you good feedback, or you're interested to work with them, that's absolutely fine. I remember that, yeah, the hardest part was the funding. This is always like the most challenging thing. But I got my funding from Cambridge Trust, which is now have the new option of AlThuraya scholarships, which is great. And it's just, as what I said, part of the application. I finished my MPhil and I did well, so I was lucky to get accepted in the PhD program. Now a PhD in the computer lab with the same supervisor that I worked with in my MPhil, and I'm now in my second year. And my funding actually for the PhD, it comes from Cambridge Trust and from the European Research Council as well. And my department was able to handle this funding for me because they saw that I have the potential to do a PhD and to succeed. So they facilitated that for me. So yeah, I encourage you to go through the process and to apply, and I'm sure it will be great. Yeah.
Thank you. Next is Kareem.
Hello, hi. My name is Kareem. I'm from Syria. I did my MPhil in physics at Cambridge. Now I'm doing my PhD in physics. But different. I did my internship in Cambridge first at the beginning, and I found a really nice supervisor, found a really nice project. And then once I went back to my undergrad university, I kept in touch, and he was my supervisor was very keen on bringing me back to do an MPhil in his group, and I was also very keen to do that. The application part, I was lucky enough to apply by the 4th of December, which is again 6th of December, yeah. And that's very important to catch that deadline to apply to take the Cambridge Trust scholarship, which I did. However, after I got accepted, it took me a lot of time to find the funding. I got my funding way late in July. What I understood is that it's always for overseas students. It's a bit full scholarship from a single sponsor. So sometimes it's always good to see who are willing to give partial scholarships and then and see who could fill up the effort. So in my case, in my MPhil, when I applied to Cambridge Trust, I got a Santander scholarship from them. I got some help from the college, and I got help from my supervisor with his ERC grant. So, that was a package, was not a single sponsor, but everything covered later. And for my PhD, it was more smoother because I already started with my project and my MPhil went smoothly. So yeah, now I have like 4 different bodies that PhD because it's a lot of money, but yeah. So don't be. I never thought I would be applying here, but once I got accepted and once I found nice people here, I contacted the personnel here, and I have a lot of help from the Cambridge Trust. Hopefully,
next is Khalil.
I'm Khalil from Syria. I'm a second year medical student at Down College. So the medicine course here is the traditional 6-year course of preclinical science, and then the later 3 years are the clinical years. So for me, when I first applied, tuition fees, cover living costs and everything. So for me, I applied for funding when I applied for the university through the SLC student company. But again, because international students, and I was interested in the UK, it's very hard to get funding. So it's very important to start looking for that when you apply. It's very competitive for international students, which is why scholarships like the AlThuraya Trust is very important. You should start looking to what they require from this stage while you're applying. Often to get on into science courses, they like to see motivation and dedication to your field. So for me, when I applied for medicine, they like to see that I'm really interested in research and specific areas in research. So it's often very helpful to have done some internships. So and you could do that at any part, even during your course, you can still apply for internships. In the summer, I'm applying to do some physiology internships. So definitely try and show that you're interested in research, because that will enhance your application a lot and make you, like, highlight you from other applicants. Obviously, not living in the UK all my life, I was scared that they prefer someone who's lived in the UK for many reasons. Like, my English level wasn't as good as perhaps other students applying, so I definitely wouldn't let that hinder your application or make you scared from applying. So definitely, it's worth applying, even if you don't think you'll get in, because you probably will. No one who applies thinks they will get in definitely, so it's definitely worth taking the chance. And if you have any questions, as Yumna said, it's worth contacting people who are at the university, whether they're professors, supervisors, or students. I contacted some medical students when I first applied, and they gave me specific advice to the course and to the college what I needed to do about the application process. So if you have any questions for any of us, it's worth asking either after the webinar or getting in contact. That's everything. Hope you get in.
Thank you, Khalil. Next is Mohammed.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me very properly. I'm going to talk about a bit of overview of my background and application process and funding, obviously. So I'm from Egypt. My background is a medical school from Alexandria. So I did my undergrad in Egypt. And then I moved here to do start with MPhil last year in biochemistry. And then I turned to convert my degree into a PhD. And now I'm a second year PhD in biochemistry. The application process, it's good to start early. This is the biggest advice I would give you guys. Starting early, be specific. Application process is very easy at the moment. You can make one application on Cambridge and you pay the application fees, and you make one application, and then this qualifies you for all other funding and sponsorship, most of them, especially the ones that come through Cambridge Trust. So application, I would advise you to write a very specific research proposal. Like, try to not be general or like, you know, this, it will look better to you that you understand what you're doing. It's good to have like a bit of background and like work experience, volunteer experience, all these kind of things. Extracurricular help so much. It's not only as our common belief in the Arab world that the transcript is all what like make your application strong or not. So like these, all these kind of related experiences will help so much in your application process. Reference is a big issue. I would tell you guys. I mean, experience with writing references in our world, and try to kind of look up some templates, see how references are written, and if you can advise also your references on how to kind of give you a good reference, that would be quite helpful for your application, make it very strong. Funding comes from different sources. I would say like through the university, which is like currently handled by Cambridge Trust, and like home or like local scholarships, and through the colleges, which is I didn't know about. So Cambridge Trust is a really big organization that handles hundreds of scholarships. You can go to their website and you can just have a very simple entry of where you come from and what's your field and all that, and they will where they you can apply to. So I would advise you guys that you like it's very competitive though, because like a lot of people apply and you basically compete with everyone. Whereas like applications and scholarships that come from like home would be, you'll compete with less people, so that would be more also a good chance. Colleges take this very seriously because some colleges which gives you some fundings, or either partial funding or complete funding. So also try to kind of do your research on that before you apply. Like it's Cambridge is like one of the top universities in the world. Oxford, like all these universities, British universities, are making it top rank at the moment. But it's funny that people don't know that the acceptance rate of Cambridge and Oxford are almost 20%, which is very high. 1/5 of all applications get accepted, which is very high compared to like all top universities in the world. Like compared to Harvard, MIT, these are like below 3% or 2%. And it's so straightforward. Application is simple. Just try to like kind of be focused on what you really want to do. Try to contact people, your supervisor. Build this connection before. That will also kind of enhance your chances. If you have questions before application, you can, people are so easy, like you can just shoot them an email and then they reply to your concerns or questions. Then you can ask people in the lab to what to expect and what you want to do for your MPhil or PhD or the program you're applying to. So yeah, the application is in 2 weeks, so it's obviously not long before, but there are also a couple sources of fundings after this deadline. This is basically the deadline for and for the Cambridge Trust scholarships, but there are also a couple of funding bodies that have a later deadline. So try to diversify as much the sources of fundings as you can, because this all help. And if you have questions, please ask. We have a very diverse backgrounds here, very diverse funding sources. So we will happy to take your questions, and good luck.
Thank you, Mohammed. Next is Samuel.
So, to be speaking at the end because they have spoken about everything that I always wanted to speak, but I will just highlight my background. I will give you some tips, and that would be good enough. So I'm Samuel Gabra. I studied here MPhil in Energy Technologies, which is a branch of the engineering studies, and that was last year, and now I'm doing engineering. I was studying in Egypt before. I didn't have that amazing CV compared to other CVs that you would find online. that you would say, okay, these are the CVs that are accepted in Cambridge. And I wasn't the first in my class in Egypt, and I didn't have the top GPA. I found out that I was accepted not because of the GPA, not because of what I did, of something I did specifically. It was because of the diversification of things that I have done, of how I presented my application and how I did perform in the interview. So I would like to highlight the importance of the next 2 weeks in your application. Plan them so well, write your personal statement and research proposal quite well, and spend some time in it. And be aware that a help from someone outside or someone who was accepted before would be benefit to your application. So I would like to highlight that we are here. We are here to take any questions from you, any queries. If you want any review for your personal statement, research proposal, asking about the place, or asking about the technicalities, we are here to help you. And I would like also to highlight for you the importance of this new opportunity of scholarship by saying that many people here, as Mu'taz said, and aren't able to get into the university just because they don't have enough funding. So and every funding body who is even offering a partial scholarship is depending on the other scholarships. So if you are awarded a partial scholarship, that would prove your abilities, that you are good enough, that you were selected among a group of people, and that would encourage other funding bodies to give you the scholarship. And that what happened in my case for the PhD, where offered a partial scholarship like the one that AlThuraya is offering. I was offered the other part from Cambridge Trust because they believe that I'm capable of being selected among a group of people. You stand a very good chance in this scholarship because it's only directed to Arabs, and as far as I remember, or as far as I know, is that this would be the first scholarship to be dedicated to Arabs without any categorization to your gender, sex, nationality, race, whatever. You can apply and get this opportunity, which many of us would have thought of it when we were applying. So planning ahead these 2 weeks. And afterwards, when you get accepted and hopefully get the funding, you will be impressed of how many things you can do in 1 year, how many skills you can learn in 1 year, and how many experiences you can explore in only 1 year. Thank you.
Thank you, Samuel. I hope this gave you a brief overview of how it's not impossible to get into top universities, especially like Cambridge. Perhaps I'll clarify on a couple of points that my colleagues have mentioned, which is the other sources of funding. So AlThuraya is a partial scholarship, but if you apply to AlThuraya, it doesn't stop you from getting a scholarship from another source. And an important source of the scholarship, another important source of scholarships is the colleges, as Mohammed has highlighted. And the college or the collegiate system of the Cambridge University is not very common outside of the UK, and you might not be familiar with it. But to give you a brief overview, the Cambridge University is formed of 32 colleges, and the college is an independent institution of itself, but governed by the university. Though once you are accepted to the university, second application process, which is automatically considered by the college. And each college has its own separate funding resources, and depending on the strength of your application, you might get accepted into one of the colleges which offer lots of scholarships. So that's an important part to highlight. Colleges do offer scholarships, whether partial or full scholarships. And it's the good thing is that everything is centralized. You might feel overwhelmed by the number of scholarships available, and you might think that you have to apply to different places, but it's just one application, and your application is automatically considered scholarships. There are a few colleges which do have some rules on how you can get their scholarship. So in the application system, you will be asked to nominate one or two colleges as your preference. So do look up the college's fundings, because some colleges will only consider funding if you state that college as as your first preference. I highly advise against choosing not to specify a specific college and getting pooled, because these are chances of getting and getting some funding. The other thing I'd like to highlight is that some of the master programs do interview the students before getting accepted, while others do not. So pay attention to the application process in general. If you reach the interview stage, then this is something that is already very, very good, because it means you have already been selected through a competitive process. And in general, the main idea is not to find out whether what you wrote in your research proposal is something that you will be able to perform, but it's more like testing the way you think from what you've written in your proposal. Be perfect, and consider an interview as an opportunity to discuss your ideas. And the more creative and the more flexible your ideas, then the more likely you are to impress the interviewees and get accepted into the program. Perhaps I should speak about my own experience. So I studied medicine back in Egypt, and then I did a master's in biomedical engineering in Boğaziçi University in Turkey. And then I got accepted into the PhD program here in Cambridge. I only started my application late November, and the deadlines, as they have told you, are early December. A chance, and I submitted the application on the 1st December. So never lose hope. The time is tight, but there's always a chance. And basically, while the PhD process might require a proposal, which might not be required in the master's programs, but the same criteria that they use to evaluate your research proposal, they use the same criteria to evaluate your master's application. And this is some sort of a general idea that once you get accepted in a master's, you have a high chance of proceeding to a PhD. For example, in North America, applying to a PhD in North America is 5 years, but the first year is full of courses. In Cambridge and in Europe in general, the process is more like getting accepted in a master's, where you take the courses. If you perform well, then you have a very high chance of progressing to the PhD program. Now, I think we have one question, which is, can you choose your supervisor before you apply or not at the master's level?
In my case, I could specify the advisor because I contacted her earlier, actually a year before, and I was like trying to ask her about sources of funding. So she quite knew my plans, and I was quite familiar with her work. You can specify the supervisor you would like to work with. In my case, I specified her, and my application was so tailored towards what I like to work to do with her. So you can do this, yeah. Oh, but you can also leave it open if you're not very sure about it, and or if you're doing more of like a course-based study rather than like research-based study.
Research, you can just contact them, send them an email, assign just a Skype call, just short notice, just to get to meet them. So they meet you, they know who you are, and once you state them and you can also know what kind of projects are available in the group, because usually there are pots of money for small projects, and if you know what kind of projects are available, which you also are interested in, a nice matchup. So just based on your skills, your expertise, this is what the supervisor will ask you, and they will try to fit you if they find a project that fits you too. And if it's a match, then it's a match.
And try to be proactive, like not just like, well, wait for the supervisor to ask you a question. Like do some reading and like know what they're doing. Ask them the questions, ask them about the grants, the money. You like really like try to be more proactive. It means like it shows how motivated and driven you are. So,
but don't be disappointed if like the emails are not responded. Like if you send an email and it doesn't respond to you, it's not because of you, because they are like. But it's very worth a try. And sometimes if you have an interesting email that he reads, you could be lucky to get his attention. But don't take anything personal. If you send something and they don't reply or reply very shortly, they're just very yeah.
Personal statement or a letter of intent required to apply to a master's in Cambridge.
there is a person.
There is a person. So the personal statement is not a statement as much as it's a set of questions about your future, your life, what you want. So it's not, in my case, or I would speak to my case specifically, the application generic for most of the courses, just like the research proposal has a section, and the other sections not like a personal statement that you would upload on the website as a Word document where you state everything. It would be asking specific questions of what's expected from you in an answer. Like, question, what are the non-academic activities that you performed before during the university? What are your motivations after this course? Why you chose this course specifically? So just like a big personal divided into a set of questions.
People outside your field, so it shouldn't be like very technical, or it's like someone from outside that you should be able to understand it. And in my case, there was a specific proposal that I sent to the computer lab where I went to the technical stuff, and it's spread by the professors in the lab.
Right.
But never copy paste, because just for you to know, there's thousands of applications every year, and they're the same people, like admission people. But they know very well if you copy paste something. You can read some templates online to just get an idea of how to write it, but then really try to write it yourself. Try to ask people, like your friends, like if you have like a helpful to read it for you. It's quite fine, and there's some places where people like offer their help to read and proofread your personal statement. So this is this is like the benefit of applying early, so you can have all these kinds of things reviewed for you.
Okay, and specifically also, if it's always a good sign if the person you are applying with statement before you submit it, so it means that they are interested in helping you improve your application. So always get in touch with people, because maybe depends on applications, and you want your name to be highlighted. You want someone to remember, oh, this person got in touch with me. It means that they are personally interested in for example. So they would pay more attention would help them to pay more attention to your application and consider you. I think we have another question. What if you're not sure about what research topic you want to work on?
For the master's, that's absolutely fine. To be honest, I wrote a proposal and I didn't do anything of that proposal. I worked on something totally different. It's totally fine, because you basically explore the different research areas, or you explore what you want to do in the master's. So it's fine from my experience.
There's another approach. If you find an internship, that's usually the easiest way, in and out, 3 months or 6 months. Just go and get your hands dirty and then see whether you like it or not. And then if you don't want to commit the whole path, it could be a bit challenging to find an internship that is paid. Most internships are, this is one approach if you really would like to experience something but you don't want to.
And it really depends on the type of course you are applying. If you are applying to a taught course, then the research proposal you are just mentioning wouldn't affect your application as much that if it's research-based course. So if it's research-based course, it will matter very much, as Yumna said, but it's also worth, if it's a research course, to spend some time to direct your research proposal towards a specific research question, even if you aren't sure 100% that this is what you are going to do. The research proposal itself is just to give people idea that you can choose among a selection of questions, and you can develop an idea of how you can perform this question. It's not about what you will perform at that.
Yeah, I mean, for MPhil, ideally, you know what you want to do for 1 year. PhD, a lot of people change. Cambridge actually give you a chance, the opportunity to change supervisor if you want, change even department, attached to a specific department or supervisor. But like for taught courses, you would have more options, because it's a bit of open courses you want to take. For research-based course, MPhil, you would be assigned to one lab and basically do research all the time, not doing very little coursework. So ideally, you should know or choose a big place or big group to work with, so you have a bit of different sub-specialities that you would explore. So otherwise, you can always change, of course, but I mean, you don't want to disrupt your study if you're just doing 1 year. But you can always make an application or speak with your supervisor. That's totally fine. It happens. People here are quite open with this. It's not just us. Even like people here in the system, in the British system, they quite do this quite often to change their course even, or change their supervisor or topic.
And another question is, what about if you have no experience with research before that? Because usually there are limited opportunities in the Middle East. How can you overcome this?
Well, it doesn't need to be like a research, like a great experience of research where you publish something amazing, or to be whatever you have done that can be associated to research in one way or another. Even if it's a project in the university where you were required to do some research during the project, and this project like ended up with producing a report where you have found something genuine, or you have produced a report without any original thing, but it was like structured report about a specific you would be interested to research about in your master's. So for my case, I did some kind of research experiences limited in my university. It wasn't like research, but it was what proved that I want research afterwards.
It's the same. I agree with you that if you study something really interesting or you really enjoy lecture, you can always email them. If you're in the Middle East, I'm sure they do some form of research, and your email could just be, I really enjoyed studying your topic. I read a bit about your research and it seems really interesting. Would it be possible, for example, in the summer to come for a few weeks, just shadow you, get involved with some of the research, and that would to put that in your CV that you've done that, because it shows dedication to the field you want to apply for.
Summer projects are very important. If you manage to work with a professor that is known in the field, translator, which is very important to, if you give it to your future supervisor, they will know each other. It's a community, it's a society, everyone knows each other in the same field. So that could also enhance your chances.
But previous research experiences is definitely not mandatory. So for a lot of British students here, their undergrad to the postgrad, they have very limited research experience, and they still apply and get accepted. So definitely help you to kind of strengthen your application. But I mean, if you don't have research experiences, be very direct and genuine about it. And even when you email people, say, well, I don't have research experience, but I have interest and passion, and I read about it and interest in this field, at least reading papers and reviewing all topics. So, but research experience is definitely not mandatory for the application.
So practical knowledge is also very good, at least in the field that they want to do. It's not only theory, and it's not, as they said, but practical, like being in the lab, spending the hours in the lab, or spending where you're working. Just this is lab experience. Or
we have some questions on what goes on in the masters. So, for example, the dissertation, what support can you get when you come to the stage of writing your master thesis, for example? And for example, would you need to collect your own data? How much support can you get in the master's program when it comes to doing your own thesis?
for math, you definitely have to collect your own data. I think you have to write it yourself. Get help from your supervisor or people in your lab, people in your group, or other people, other colleagues that you have in reading your work, reading your writings, and writing it, drafting it multiple times. And I think the university itself, they have many courses on how to write effectively, write scientific reports, write thesis. There are seminars here. There are plenty of resources in Cambridge to write your thesis. It's just which one you will choose, and especially in the close and very short time, which approach will you take? I mean, if you don't have any experience before, or if you have, or
I think it depends on the project and also the department. Because you can do your own data, or you can work on an existing data, and then you can do something different with it or something like that. And for writing the dissertation, what helped me is that I just looked at past year dissertations, and I saw what they wrote, what to include, and that helped me a lot.
The dissertation is only a long report, so for everyone who have written a report about something he has done, just like to expand it, to have some introduction, some conclusion, and a bit of abstract, and even reports have abstracts, so it's nothing to worry about, and they teach you here how to do it.
There's always lots of support within the master program, because I think in the master program you always have a director of studies that you can always go back to. That is in addition to your supervisor for your thesis, plus general support from the college and from the university. there is a career services department where they always send out structures or guidelines on how to improve your writing. There are writing workshops, for example, about specifically about how to improve your scientific writing. So there are lots of resources once you are at the stage where you need help with your thesis. Now there are a couple of questions about so is there a training of research methodology and data analysis? And is there room for creative methodology and mixed methods, or is there a stronger emphasis on quantitative studies?
These lectures at the beginning for first year PhDs or master students, they can all attend these courses where they teach you about analysis and how to collect your data. Your supervisor is also a very important resource, and work before you. Most likely you're continuing projects or you're gonna keep continuing other work. So you'll see the people what they did, how did they do their work, and yeah, just this knowledge that's passed by on. You can come up with your creative methodology, but I don't know, I can't.
Yeah, there's always a room for creative methodology, but I mean, to be realistic, it's 1 year, so like not, you know, you can do a first author paper in Nature, but this is a bit hard for in 1 year. But yeah, kind of. But I mean, the support you get, it depends really usually on your supervisor. Some supervisors are busier than others, but I mean, always seek feedback. You'll find a way to. You're a student. This is your title, so you'll be trained as a student. It's fine to do mistakes. It's fine to try new things. It's not like in Egypt, for example, that you do something that's like 1,000 people have done it before you. Like pushed to do something a bit very new and add things, and also come up with ideas and seek feedback from everyone in your lab, in your field as well.
In my department, for example, there is the MPhil in cognition and brain sciences, and usually the amount of skills or research methodology you get trained in depends on the specific topic you're working on. But my department runs a series of seminars at the beginning of the year for beginners on how to and for example, to give some background information about the specific topics that they will work on, and usually their own research group would have someone who's senior, not necessarily the PI or the principal investigator or the supervisor, but perhaps a postdoc who you will always, or a PhD student in case you're a master student, who will always be your first point of contact to help with any problems you face. And it's expected that you will face problems. That's the whole idea behind the learning process. So when you're accepted, you're not expected to know everything. You're just expected to have the potential to acquire new skills. And for example, that's something that my department, they don't want necessarily accept students who are experts in data analysis, but who have good ideas, who show potential in acquiring these new skills, and they train them. And in the end, the product is fantastic, and they have really amazing research results. These type questions in the comments section if you have any other questions. Currently, there isn't. So yes, perhaps we'll wait for another. For one more question. So. Yes, for 5 minutes if there's one more question. I guess during this period we can we can give more of Okay. So yeah. No. Well. Okay. I hope this was beneficial.
And you can talk about the Arab society. There's like a big Arab community.
Oh yes.
Of course.
So, yes.
Shameless.
We have interest in the Middle East holds. So with these apply. The application process, even if you do not get accepted, application cycle. Do you have any further questions? Please get in touch with us. I think this one will be available offline. Do you have any specific question about the scholarships?
And good luck.
And
Good
good
luck.
luck with
Thank
the
you very
application.
much.